This is
Okay.
Antonio Moore coming to you from Tone Talks. Here with Yvette Carnell of Breaking Brown, and we're also representing Your Black World here. And we're gonna have a good discussion about Black economics, and we're gonna show it through an actual like new device that we thought just came out, but it's been out. It seems like after talking to a couple educators, and we're gonna really show like wealth inequality through this device, and we're gonna talk about some of the missteps that African Americans are making when they actually like try to like reconcile what this device means, at least in our view. Yvette, you want to say hello to the audience?
Hey, Breaking Brown fam. Hey, Your Black World fam. And this is just another attempt by Antonio and I to kind of lay out the numbers of what it means to be black in America, as opposed to just talking about blackness in sort of abstract philosophical terms. So welcome to the conversation.
Yeah. And so what I wanted to do, kind of to start this thing off, is really to kind of discuss the dynamic of where we're at, not like where we speculate where we're at, because I believe one of the dynamics that allows for Black America, particularly those that believe they're middle class in Black America, to create their fanciful kind of world is a language of some and most. So some white people, there's white people that are poor too. There's rich Black people as well, some. And like fundamentally, the numbers just don't support like some of the some and most, I guess you could say, belief systems that middle quote unquote Black America has created. The chart I'm going to pull up right now is basically from the Harvard Business Review, but they actually took the data from the Federal Reserve, two very legitimate sources. And so what this chart actually shows is Black people and white people by household. And what it fundamentally really shows is that when you really look at it, like there is no Black wealth. I hate to say it, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but less than 1% of Black households have more than $1,400,000 in hard assets, and over 10% of white households have over $1,400,000, and 9%. And when we're talking about numbers, I just kind of want to give it context as well, because it's very important to understand that there's 82 million white households and there's 14 million Black households. In addition to that, there's about 3 people per Black household and only 2 people per white household. So there's about 170 million whites, and they live in these 82 million homes, while there's 42 million, 41 million Blacks, and they live in these 14 million homes. Why that's important is if you were to look and focus in on this chart that's still up and look at the top 5%, all you got to have is 350 to get in the top 5% of Black households. That's about 700,000 out of the 40-something million Black households. But that's for 3 people. So the equivalent on the white side, if you actually looked at it, is all the way at probably maybe at the 65th percentile, not maybe at even the 60th percentile. What that means is that almost 40% of white America is at the same status as the top 5% of Black America. And it isn't even equivalent, because in addition to that, because there's so many of them, they can live amongst each other and not have to deal with anybody else when they do business. You understand? You feel what I'm saying, Adrian?
No, I understand it. I understand exactly what you're saying about those numbers and what they mean in terms of when you think about it. And I just want to put this in relation in one way that we talked about before. And you talking about, if you talk about 350, you can have a Black person that just has a main home and a rental home, and that's it. And they've entered that, depending on how those homes have appraised, they've entered that top 5% number. You weren't talking about Bill Gates. You weren't even talking about most Black millionaires. You weren't talking about Will Smith here. You can have a grandparent who has entered that top tier because they have 2 homes.
No, I definitely agree, and I think that one of the things that's really interesting about the chart I just showed is that people don't understand, one, how highly regionalized it is, like because it's based on real estate. When white wealth while some of it is based on real estate as well, it's based on things that travel, stocks, like insurance, things that travel. So like with Black people, if it's all based on real estate, those places that have high property values have pretty much all the Black people that are in the top 5%, with a few other people that have like 6 homes in Louisiana. I mean, those are the only ones. Like, you can have a whole state with no Black people in the top 5%, like, or nearly no Black people in the top 3 to 5%. And so, like, one of the other things you see is, and I'm doing this article for inequality.org to kind of show it a little bit more clearly, using a cutoff of $100,000. Because white people live 2 per home, what you see is that almost like by my numbers, about 72, 73 million whites are running around here worth about 100,000. Whereas on the black side, it's a mere 2 million. And the other thing is, almost all of those 2 million are near 100,000. They're not like at 170. They're not like 500. Almost the bulk of the two is at the 100 range. Whereas for the 72 million whites, it's spread across 100, 500, a million, 3 million. And I think that, for Black America, that's a hard thing to swallow because they've been sold propaganda about like wealth equality. The access to wealth can be achieved through education, which will be the main topic that we're going to talk about today. Is education like this new key to access for Black America, or is it really now changed to just an expression of wealth?
No, exactly. I think the thing that one of the things that Black people have to get their hand over, get their grapple their mind around is that like you don't control the gates. Like whether or not the gates get open is not up to you. Right, so you had this whole period of affirmative action with all these laws and this whole LBJ area that ushered in a whole bunch of laws that were supposed to, equalize the playing field. So that was basically government helping Black people get in. But like if these companies now decide that hey, we don't want to let you in, which is what Byron Allen basically said in your interview.
Yes.
They've decided they don't want to let me in, then you can't get in, and there's no amount of will or desire that there's no amount of hard work that can get you in that door of these. These are institutions. These are structures. These are corporations. If they don't want to let you in, and like they have shown, like without government, they're not going to let you in.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And we've talked about it extensively. For those that haven't seen the interview I did with Byron Allen is a billionaire. Some people like to say multimillionaire, whatever you want to state it as. He's one of the richest blacks in America. And we did an interview discussing his new lawsuits against Charter, against Time Warner, against Comcast, and the FCC as well, and just really looking at the dynamic of how Jim Crow has been extended and how we see it in media. And what he's experienced is that when you try to get just them to let you have a channel, where you own a channel, not like you're on a channel, like say CNN, or for that matter, not like you're on a black channel that's owned by white companies, but a black channel by black people, is basically become almost like impossible. They just what they do instead is they'll clothe it with minority black ownership and then sell it to us like as black owned. So if they don't want to let us have a channel, what is the chances that they'll let us have real resources? What is the chances of getting potatoes, getting orange trees, getting eggs? I'm talking on a mass scale. Not very high. And I think education has been sold as something that it's not. And I used the plugs and outlets analysis for you before. And just to explain it, education, like when I say education, I'm talking about after grade school, going to UCLA, going to Howard, is a plug. But it was sold to Black America as an outlet. But what's happening now is our young blacks are paying so much for their plug that when they finish, the outlets, as a result of a number of factors, globalization, self-greed, just a number of factors, have nowhere to put their plug. Affirmative action dying out. And so like Black America now has a whole generation of young blacks that went on to get these educations and just have student debt to show for it and nowhere to plug it, and nobody's talking about it. And part of the reason that we're going to have a discussion today is to talk about that. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Right.
And so I sent Yvette an article yesterday, and we had a long discussion. Long discussion on her Facebook page, on her Breaking Bound page, about the reality of a whole new ball game. That's what the New Yorker called this. And what it was about was this ball. And I'm gonna pull up a little commercial so you guys can see the ball and see what this ball does. It's a ball for your kids to learn how to program, and it means so much more. So here's the commercial.
Every skill level. Spark began as a local meetup group where we taught kids how to code. A year later, we launched a series of free lessons, enabling students and teachers to discover all that's possible with the Sphero Ball. Now, as we face a future where coding will be as important as reading and writing, we want to give everyone the opportunity to learn the language of tomorrow. In the box, you'll find Sphero Spark Edition, an induction charger, and a few other handy tools to help you get creative. The ball itself comes packed with all the same sensors and electronics as Sphero 2.0, but unlike Sphero 2.0's white shell, we've encased Spark Edition in clear polycarbonate, bringing you closer to the robotic action.
So now that you guys have seen that commercial, the New Yorker called this a whole new ball game. And just to share a little section, you tap a Sphero twice to turn it on, and it flashes 3 colors in quick succession. Once it has established a wireless link to your iPad or your smartphone, it strobes like a fortune teller's crystal ball and is ready to move. A Sphero, which costs $130, is chiefly a toy. It's an out-of-the-box experience to use. The industry is excellent. You download an app, and by pressing and swiping and swirling your finger on a smartphone or tablet, you can command the ball and learn the program. So this ball is supposed to teach young people how to program. And did you get a chance to see the ball in action, Yvette?
I didn't see the ball in action. I just saw pictures of the ball and what they read and what they wrote in the New Yorker piece about the kids, trying to rescue a koala bear and stuff with the ball,
And it's not simple. It's not left and right. It's degrees. It's speed. And you're supposed to actually get to a point where you write code to make it turn left or change colors and get it through certain obstacle courses. And it's really crazy. And so we entered into this discussion about what it means that this ball is being in certain communities. And we had all kind of like comments from different people on the event's page about how we just need to get it to the babies earlier, or for that matter, we need to collectively do this. And everybody, or how $130 isn't that much. We spend that all the time. And, I'll just let you first start off on what you thought about this ball and what it meant.
Well, the question, I started off with a question. My question was, these kids in these wealthy schools, elite schools, the school costs like $16,000 a year that these little kids are going to playing with this ball. And what I said was, how do you compete? If you have a kid in one of these urban centers, you got a kid in Chicago, you got a kid anywhere if you're a black person. Like, how do you compete with the kids with these balls? Because it's not just Chicago. It's everywhere. Like, you don't have the money to pay for this kid to go to this school with this ball. And even if that's just the fact. And even if you did, your kid will have a different experience because he doesn't have the money, he doesn't have the structure. But the question I was asking is, how do you deal with this? What do you do with this? How do you compete with this? And people were like, oh, just get our baby some balls. And the thing about it is, like, you got to have other stuff that go with the ball. You don't understand that this ball is a representation of wealth. So you got to have other stuff to go with the ball. You got to have the iPad. You got to have the money. You got to have a kid that's not hungry. Then the kid got to have the relationship. So when they do get the ball, they have the relationship as a programmer. I have relationship. I know people that are starting companies. I know people at startups. I know people at Facebook. I know people at everywhere. I'm probably going to go to Stanford. Stanford has a whole program for this kind of stuff for people who are in tech. They have mentors. And I'm going to, so you have to have a structure that supports you with the ball and shows that you're going to have everything that needed that goes with the ball. Like, my thing is, it's not just about a ball. That's what we do. We said we're going to go out and buy the ball. The ball is a symbol of something else. It's not about the ball. You can go buy the ball and your kid will still, like I said on the page, your kid will still go work for Upwork or something. He's not going to be one of the programmers that gets into, like, these really sweet jobs and runs these companies. Like, that's not... This ball is just a symbol of an opportunity that they have because of where they are in the hierarchy of wealth in this country.
No, I agree. And before I get even into like a deeper part of the conversation, for Black America to sit here today and act like $130 is not a lot of money shows how we've really been crazed. I write on inequality.org, which I've shared with people before. I have a piece that I did on Martin Luther King Day, and what I shared was that when you take away the family cars, part of the reason that you see, they say that the middle black family is worth like $10,000, is they're counting durable goods. The couch, the family car, these things that are not assets because they're depreciating so fast. But if you just look at assets that are real assets, your house and everything else, the middle black family is worth $1,700. So you have a group whose middle family is worth $1,700 saying $130 is not that much. What you start with is so many of our black families just can't count, and that's partially because they've learned to use unsecured and secured credit as liquid cash in their heads. And so, like, fundamentally, until you start off with an understanding that $130 is a lot of money, we can't even get to programming because you're not even programmed right. And so I fundamentally believe that that's where I want to kind of like to start. And even like in the Federal Reserve number, those are skewed high because if you look, like they did it too. Because if you told black people that the middle black families were $1,700, they might finally write. But when you tell them they worth like $9, they like, oh, I got 8 to spend. And it's like, no, that's in your car. That's in your family car. That's not a real asset. They just playing with you. And so like, but if you do that so the middle white family, because I know the other side is, oh, there's these poor white families. The middle white families look like 130,000. So if you take out durables on their side, it's down to like 112, 115. It don't kill their number the same way. And so I come back to it to say $130 is a considerable sum, but it's not just $130. You know, I had a chance to talk to an educator that works at one of these elite schools. They doing obstacle courses, but the normal teachers don't teach this. They got programmers that come in to teach this. And so like, what we do is we look at things and we try to break it down to the simplest form. And in doing that, we miss the thing. And so, you know, you can sit up and say, oh man, watching somebody scuba dive with the great whites, you know, and break it down and say, all I got to learn how to do is dog paddle or whatever it is. No, you got to learn how to breathe right. You got to learn how to carry that backpack. You got to learn how to put all that equipment on. And I think that Black America right now is so dishonest because they don't know the numbers, such as, and if you know, that's the numbers I put at the top. And then also they want to believe that in a way everything is achievable. You know?
Yeah, I think we live in like this aspirational illusion. Like if you tell black people have been sort of trained, you know, with you go back all the way back to Dr. King, you go all the way back to, you know, a lot of these people that told us, you know, like we can do anything if we're just given a shot. Well, maybe so, but the point is you ain't given a shot because you don't have the money. It's not about hard work being given a shot. It's just like what you just said. Like if you want to get in the water, you gotta have everything that goes with the water. That's like saying you want to be scuba diving. Well, first of all, even if you want to do that, nobody's saying you can't scuba dive. But you know, if you can't, how you gonna be the best scuba diver? You can't even get time off work because you know some of these people, that's their whole life. That's their whole life. You might have somebody who is wealthy or rich or whatever, who's your daddy or your and you can just do this stuff all the time. Like people don't understand the impediments. Like black people just don't understand that this is aspirational.
Yeah, and I would argue that one, they don't understand their impediments, and two, they don't have realistic goals. So like, you know, when you say Stanford and Harvard, a lot of those spaces are already like sold up. Like when your kid is born, some people already have a spot in Harvard and a spot in Stanford. And like, I think that we tend to look at these things that are really for the wealthiest people in the world, and we don't understand that they're for the wealthiest people in the world, and that you coming in without a pot to piss in. And am I saying to give up? No, but I'm saying like you have to start looking at this thing and get honest before it totally destroys you. At least because we're already seeing it. Black people are so depressed because they're not seeing no more puffies, no more ice cubes. You know, I looked at this thing, and one of the things that I really realized about this wealth is we don't understand timing as wealth. So when I say timing as wealth, we don't understand what just happened as far as a major shift in terms of new people getting into any kind of money. The kind of shift we saw has consolidated wealth. And when they say wealth, it means that there's not going to be new chances to come from the mailroom and become the CEO. That's done. And we got to get honest about that. Malcolm Gladwell, and I want everybody reading this, listening to this, to maybe go pick it up, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. He did this analysis, and what he showed is, I'm going to share this. Is Bill Gates a billionaire? He's smart, of course, and has tremendous ambition. But he probably wouldn't have started Microsoft if he hadn't been born in 1955. That made Gates old enough to take advantage of the opportunities that opened up with the introduction in 1975 of the Altair 8800, the first do-it-yourself computer kit. But he wasn't so old to be settled in his life and not take a leap of faith. Also, his father was one of the best trademark attorneys in Seattle. And then they continue on. They say, coincidence? Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen was born in 53. Apple founder Steve Jobs was born in 55. And Sun Microsoft Systems founder Bill Joy was born in 54. So like, you're looking at whiteness, wealth, and timing, not just coding. And if you don't think that applies like to us, you can look at rap. I mean, you look at, I want you to do it yourself for those listening. Look on Wikipedia at the ages for Ice Cube, Sean Combs, and Baby from Cash Money. They all was born in 1969. All three of them. Because you needed to be the perfect age for that. And like, I'm not saying give up, but you got to start being honest about resource, or you're going to drive yourself crazy. As part of this conversation is to look at this ball as resource, an expression of wealth, rather than just a ball that I'm going to pick up at Toys R Us to make things equal. You know?
Yeah, and it's like you talked about Stanford and Harvard, and like people already have spots for these schools, but it's even bigger than that in the sense of, like, a lot of people, even if you are a black kid that goes to Harvard or Stanford, you're not just like the white kid who comes from a wealthy family going to Stanford and Harvard. Like, they're really going there to meet other wealthy people from good families. They're going to be good regardless, you know. And even some of the people who say, well, there are other immigrants there, even some of them come from money, like, you know what I mean, come from a wealthy class elsewhere. So it's not just like you just assume because everybody's an immigrant that they're poor. That's not the case. So these people are coming in to meet other people, meet other friends, to help develop their structures to get rich. This is not something that you're going to go to Stanford just like the other kid goes to Stanford. No, you're not going to have those same resources. You're not going to be able to call on that kind of stuff when you need a job. You know, they're not even needing a job. You know, they're about to be creating a job, but you can't call on that. So these aren't going to be the same kind of relationships that you're going to have. A lot of these kids are going to meet up and they've known each other. They have friends that are at Harvard, Princeton. They all grew up together. You don't have that structure. And I think the thing that I would like to get through to black people is that stop thinking that your desire and your, to be great is bigger than the institutions and bigger than the structures that exist in this country. Like, these people are wealthy not because they were just go-getters. Or I see all this crap online about, here are 20 things you can do to be a rich person. He act like rich people. Start, get up at this time and you stay up to this time and you check email at this time. No, that's not how to get rich. Rich people didn't do that. Rich people pass down generational wealth. Look,
even Bill Gates, even Bill Gates, when you look at that, like, they done sold us like they make Bill Gates sound like he came from Compton or Zuckerberg. Folks, his daddy was one of the top trademark attorneys in Seattle. You put that with his computer thing, he was ahead of the game. And so, like, was he a billionaire already? No. And so, like, but how like, if you have that kind of like access and nobody else does, putting it all together, I guess, has value. Even President Obama has admitted this with his recent quote where he said, that quote is so powerful. He basically says that I'm tired of successful people acting like luck isn't part of it. And luck is a huge part of it. And so, like, I come back to it, and before we transition, I just really wanted to like deal with this dynamic of self-blame. And so, like, as you look at what me and Yvette, as you may look at what me and Yvette saying as pessimistic, I look at what you're saying as so demented, it's creating crazy people that I got to deal with. And so, like, I got to deal with black men who are depressed because they're not making it in rap. Because somebody told them that they're going to be the next LaDainian Tomlinson or somebody, or Michael Vick. You the one that's like on your side, you not saying that the glass is half filled, you saying that it don't matter that the water's on the table, washing around. And I think that that's where I'm at with it. I'm trying to help black people understand the war that's coming right now. Because there's an economic war coming where black people will become, like, pushed down. Because the other side that we're not dealing with is that you can't deal with wealth in isolation of greed. So, like, white people want to live a certain way. For them to live that way, it requires you to live a different way. They can't coexist. And I think that we haven't dealt with that in an honest standpoint. So we believe that their benevolence will, I guess, come in front of the greed. But that's not what the numbers are showing. When you come up with a service like Uber, that service is about, I don't want to pay you like a regular wage. I just want to pay you whenever I feel like paying you. And then pay you whatever I want to pay you. They're saying something to you. And you got to get honest as a black person when your college-educated kid is working at Uber. You know?
Yeah, no, I think you do. I think you do. And I think you have to be honest about resources too. Like the argument that you'll get from black people is like, oh, we should create an Uber. Like the real question is that you have no idea the kind of wealth that went into creating Uber, and you have no idea that even if a black person had come up with the idea for Uber, he wouldn't have got no money for Uber. You know, anybody, and you have to go. This I did it like, you know, you can self fund. I've been doing this media thing for a minute. You can't, it's you know, I get some money and I'm happy for whatever money I get from black people, but there's not enough resources in the black community to self fund, to pay for this stuff. This is millions and millions of dollars, and these people can fail, and these people will still give them more millions of dollars because they desire to see them successful. They want to see them successful. This is the circle of wealth. They want you to be okay. They're not going to give us millions and millions of dollars. They're not going to do that. Just look at Silicon Valley and show me how many Silicon Valley venture capitalists who you see. I mean who you see entrepreneurs who are black. And show me how many millions they got. You dude in Netscape walked away with like $200 million. One walked away like almost a billionaire. I mean, show me a black person that has happened to.
And I have to agree. And if you guys read this New Yorker article, it kind of talks about that in expression. This discussion, we always end up talking to each other, and I just want to try something different. I have a educator who works in one of these very advanced, very elite schools, $30,000 a year for basically primary schooling, and I just wanted to bring them in and have them discuss it right now and let them talk to the audience for about 35-40 seconds.
At this progressive school, we have laptops for each child and iPads in each class. Kids in kindergarten through 5th grade get to keep their laptops in their classrooms. 6th grade through 8th grade, they take their laptops home. And on these laptops is various programs, Photoshop, Illustrator, Stitch. And these programs, like Stitch, is a programming app that allows kids to create cartoons and create different, whatever they pretty much think of and make it move. And it's kind of like a Flash player, but for kids. It's called Turtle Art, where these kids have to figure out how to get this turtle to draw a picture, and you have to put in mathematical equations to get these kids to draw different shapes and angles, and you know, shapes have different degrees and stuff like that. So these kids learn how to do those things off of these programs that are on these computers.
So now that we're on the other side of that, this is what we talk about. This is like the difference in the competition. And I think in a lot of ways, like what we're seeing is that people are viewing education as a key to wealth rather than an expression of wealth. So like, you know, when you look at people that went to Harvard, they're going to get rich from going to Harvard. No, they came to Harvard to show that they're rich. And like, that's a fundamental difference. And it talks about a school, city, I think the Angels of Heart. It's called Academy of Our Lady of Peace. It's in this article. And what it kind of says is that they got their balls by donation. So, so the school is $17,000, but that's not what you're plugging into. What happened was one of the parents, and again, talking to somebody who works at one of these schools, the parents donate all the time. And so, like, you don't really get that that's where what you're getting into. You're getting into an environment where you can access the white wealth I showed in the earlier chart. So, like, you know, government moves slow, people move fast. And so, like, if you look back at the chart that I showed you, there's 10 million white homes. I'm sorry, there's 10% of white homes. Almost 8 million of the 82 million white homes have over $1.4 million. Now, I don't know what's liquid, but at $1.4 million, you probably can get 300 liquid quick. And all I'm saying to you is that when you have 8 million homes like that, and that's the floor, and they're spread all the way up. And so, like, when you got homes that can access that kind of wealth, you can create environments that you don't want other people to be part of, though, to be successful. And that success is in a highly ultra competitive environment as things condense down. So you think that they're going to make space for your kid that just learned the ball to come around?
Why would they make space for you? Like, the question black people have to ask themselves is, why would they make space for your kids? Like, you know, you and I were talking about, and we talked about the movie, you know, this little short documentary, 1%, and the guy basically tells the crowd, you know, he's a wealth manager. He tells this group of wealthy people, my job is to make sure that you are wealthy and your wealth goes for at least 5 generations. That person is trying to maintain wealth. They're not trying to do charity. they're not trying to let you in. Like, what would be the advantage of letting you in? Actually, the advantage is to keeping you out. Maybe I can put some little things in your community, some little payday loan places, stuff like that, so I can make extra money. Like, the advantage isn't in letting you in. And when you look at a capitalist society, people go by the economic advantage. So we're looking at it just like, yeah, these people can let me in. There was a guy on my page who said something to the effect of, well, he said we could do a weed growing business. He said I had a real estate business, and the white guy basically needed me to stay at the business all day because he didn't have that kind of time. And I'm telling that guy, listen, that means you're an employee. You're not a partner. You have nothing that this white guy needs. You don't have any relationships. You don't have no money. That makes you an employee, not a partner. And if he was a partner, he was just in a real good mood, and he thought you were a real good guy. He was trying to help you out because he was feeling charitable that day.
No, I feel you. And then the other thing is, if it's a weed selling business, you selling risk. So basically, he have you there because he don't want to go to jail. And so, like, he'll get all the proceeds because he had the cash. And then what happens is if the police come in, you there. So you going. And then so you basically selling risk.
Like, he was talking about starting in Colorado or something like that, like a little shop. Like, why can't we go into the weed business? It's just like, you don't understand what that means.
Yeah, you don't understand. But that goes back to just not understanding what race means. And we had a discussion all the time. It is race, and I love what Byron said during our discussion where he said, black people just don't understand that we had laws to shut us down. No other group has had that. To shut down you being any part of business. You think them laws are gone? And those people they not dead? Like to not understand that is just like demented. And so it's funny because this ball, coming back to it, there was just these great comments, and we've haven't done this before, but I'm gonna shout some people out. And we had sub threads, and you can go in on the Yvette's page and check it out. It was a funny conversation. But one guy, Gary Hardwick, I'm going to pull it up right now. He said, don't worry, our black leaders will get us the black equivalent of this ball for our kids. It won't teach coding, but it will tell you how to survive a traffic stop and play Al Green songs. And so it's like nobody wants to hear that reality, which is like, the solution you want is how to fix it for, like, egregious action. When actually, I'm going to give you the real solution. It might not fit you, though. Because you might have already did something beyond the solution. And you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, yeah. And I mean, the solution, and even if you tell most, I'm not saying all black people. I'm not saying that there won't be black people who can do big stuff. I'm not saying that. But if you tell most black people the solution, they don't want to hear. The solution for most black people is get a job and hold tight. You know what I mean? That may be the best you can do, but nobody wants to hear that. Like, you remember it was like the Humans of New York or whatever. There was this black guy who was driving a bus, and he said, I don't want to drive the bus. I got to get up at 4 a.m. I don't want to do that. I want to do my rap thing. Well, first of all, you're at least in your late 30s, probably early 40s. You missed the whole rap bus. And second of all, you really just telling me that you don't want to get up at 4 o'clock. That, like, you're too lazy to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like sitting here. If I'm talking to you, I'm going to tell you just to keep your government job and just and do the best you can. You probably gonna have a pension when you retire. You in New York. You probably got good benefits. Like, what's wrong? Like, what do you think that you can't stay there? And in the meanwhile, now we got immigrants coming here willing to do anything, and you don't want to stay at your government job.
Yeah, and so I mean, and that I think a lot of that comes back to the decadent veil, which we've discussed. And particularly, like, as to black men, less than black women, the lack of ability to just be normal, because post, we live in this shadow of Puff Daddy and Michael Jordan, and it's over. And, like, we just don't realize it's over because we have Steph Curry, but we don't realize Steph Curry is only like that because of Dell Curry, which still connects him to the Michael Jordan era. And so, like, for those that are on the outside of that, we better batten the hatches. And I think it's like a trip because in the discussion I ended up there with another guy named Marquise Watson. And so before we had a long thread going, and he basically said, yeah, and he was talking to another guy, B.A. Richards. The kids gotta want it. The parents gotta want it. The ball is only $130, very affordable. There are so many resources here. iPads are also very affordable. Now, I already addressed how like, kind of ignorant that the statement is, because $130 is a lot of money. If you think it's not, that's okay. You'll find out soon enough that it is. But $130 is a lot of money for a group whose middle family is worth $1,700. But I ended up in this back and forth with Marquise, and what he got to is to realize you also got to do the STEM classes in the summer. And then he put up, and I love it, and I'm gonna pull it up right now. This is how much STEM classes are in the summer where he pulled it up. For your 8th grader, it's $800 a week. $800 a week for you to go to these STEM courses. Summer's about 8 weeks. That's 2 months of $800 a week. And so for a black family, it's worth $1,700. Let alone a black family that's in the top 5% that only has a hard $350. How much is $800 a week? It's a lot of money, and that's just one kid. And so we went even further, and you know this school that they pulled up, the City of Angels School. I pulled that up for everybody to kind of see how much that tuition was. That school was $18,000, and then in the actual thing they made clear that this doesn't include your field trips, your equipment, your CIF pass, and other expenses. So basically, it don't include school yet. So I think that, you know, we don't understand how wealth is being used as a white picket fence to keep us out, not just to keep them in. And so, like, because we live in kind of the shadow, not only of popular culture, but also of affirmative action, we don't understand what's just happened. Like, literally over the last 10 years. We don't understand that the Voting Rights Act has been gutted. We don't understand that affirmative action has been gutted. And we don't understand what that's going to mean. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we think we can swim. This is always my argument about people like, well, capitalism can work for us. Capitalism works for people who have wealth or who have access to it. It doesn't work for people. That's like being a little minnow and you go out there and you're trying to swim with sharks. No, you're bait. That's all you are, is bait. Because you don't have what it takes to kind of go out there and really compete. And it's not because there's anything wrong with you as a person. It's because this system is built up for wealthy people by wealthy people. And they're not going to let you in just to have some of their money. And I say their money because guess what? If you start a business, you're going to need capital. That's probably going to be their money because they have most of it. And they're not giving it away to you for free. They're building that stuff with people who come from a certain background. There's something in Silicon Valley called pattern matching, right? So they're looking for the guy who looks like Zuckerberg. They're looking for a white guy who dropped out of Harvard. They're looking for certain kind of types. They're not looking for black men. They're not looking for black women. So they're not looking for you just to give away their money. And let's be real about something else. Part of the reason they're not looking for you is because they know you didn't go to that school. They know you didn't go to school with the balls. They know you don't have that kind of access. They know you don't have a daddy like you were just talking about Bill Gates and his father, who was, you know, an attorney. They know you never had access. So they're thinking to themselves, what are the chances that you're going to be better than this white kid who did all of that? If I'm going to give my money, that's it, I'm going to bet with the white kid. Now, I'm not talking about right, wrong, or indifferent, but this is what you're up against. So stop lying to yourself.
And it's funny because we just saw that with Twitter. When those black people try to like raise up on Twitter, Twitter said bye. And so you know, they probably went through hell to get to the point where they was as educated as they were, and they, you know, the top people at Twitter for blacks, and they got a voice, but when they used that voice, they got shut down and dismissed. And so, you know, and we're very bitter about it, about how it all went down. And so, like, I come back to this reality of this ball, and the reality that this ball is creating a gap that we haven't seen possibly since the early 1900s, representing one of many tools that educators are using now, that if your 8-year-old isn't using it and isn't in one of these schools, they're about to be locked out. And it's like crazy, because I don't see how black parents don't see this coming. And I just hope that when it hits you, it doesn't hit you so bad that you get depressed and personalize it.
Yeah, that's what I hate. It's just like, well, you know, that's what the people, you know, it's one thing to have conservatives say, like, if you had to try harder, you could have done better. It's another thing to have black people say now, like, you know, this is the land of opportunity, and if only you had pushed harder, you could have done that. And you have people like John Lewis saying that. John Lewis, you an elected official who really does stuff, you know, you're doing stuff because for power. You're only there in your job, really, to kind of help, to kind of get black people to vote Democrat. That's the only reason. You're only there because white people of power see a job for you. you know, if they see a job for you and they can use you in some way, John Lewis, that's why you're there. Okay, you're this icon of the civil rights movement. Let's use him to get white Democrats elected, to get white presidents elected. Let's use him to get black people on board. So yes, if they can find a job for you, that's fine. But what we're talking about is whether or not you can make it on your own and build something on your own. We don't have anything to build anything with. It's like saying, go build a house, you ain't got no bricks. I ain't got the brick. What you want me to do? Build it with straw?
See, but and you know, I guess as we dovetail the conversation, I think that one of the things that we're not being honest about is one of the great resources that we ended up with, which is access to more information. We ain't even getting the core of it. And when I say access to more information, like Google and internet is allowing us to see we don't have the bricks. A generation ago, we weren't able to see that. I'll give you an example. Thomas Shapiro, who wrote Black Wealth, White Wealth, he basically shows that they didn't tell us what wealth, like how much wealth we had. Like when I say they, I mean the government didn't release that data until the mid 90s. Before that, they only said income. You know why? Because they ain't want no riot. He didn't say that. I'm telling you. He didn't say that last part. I'm telling you. So like now, one of the things that's happening because of the Google and the internet is that data's coming out anyway, and they're starting to release it. So like you got to start reading it and getting honest with it. And I know it goes against everything you learned about Bill Cosby and the Cosby Show in the 80s and how black people have progressed. But in reality, these are the numbers. There's only about 140,000 black homes, less than that, with 1.4 million hard. And so like, do you understand that there's 40 million black homes? Do you understand how hard it is to be one of those black homes? Because your mama is in the other group and your auntie's in the other group, so you become the isolated person. You can't live in community. Do you understand that even your 1.4 million is from work? So it's 40% tax. It's not from capital gains. So like these are the things that we just gotta get honest about so that we can move forward. So if you want a solution, the solution is to get real. Start looking at the data, start looking at the information, and stop like creating like answers that aren't answers that only lead you to more depression. This ball is here. You know what I'm saying? You want to say anything as we close out?
No, I just want to say you can't just go buy the ball. Like, stop saying buy the ball. Like, if you want solutions, the first thing when people ask me, like, well, what about the solution? No, we have to start talking about the solution from reality. I gotta first make you understand that having the ball isn't the solution. Now, after we understand that and we understand why having the ball is not the solution, we can talk about, we can talk about potential solutions. But we're in a very tough place right now, and we need to understand that. We got to stop feeding ourselves lies to just make us feel better. No, we're in a tough place, and then we can talk about it after you come to terms with where we are. But we can't talk about it until you get there.
Thank you so much for your time, and look forward to talking to you soon.